please welcome to the stage Charles Hoskinson, CEO and founder of Input Output.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Rare Evo. I love this event. It's actually one of my favorite events in the entire world. We're here again. We've been here year after year. It's grown from just a few hundred people. There's over 2,500 people registered. How about that? A lot of lumps, a lot of bumps, but it's incredible not only to see it grow vertically, where more and more of the community is represented, but it's also great to see it grow horizontally. So it's the first time that we get to welcome our friends from Solana, our friends from Hashgraph, Multiverse X, Apex Fusion, many, many others. You know, there's actually 10 ecosystems that are represented here at Rare Evo, and I get the esteemed pleasure of opening the conference, and after I open it, we'll get to talk a little bit about some things we're working on. But in general, great things take time to grow, and they have to grow by bringing people together. You know, we're in a big inflection point right now in the industry as a whole, where we have to make some decisions whether we want to be adversarial or cooperative. And the thing is that there's no reason in 2025, with where the industry's at, for us to be adversarial. The people we don't like are the big banks. The people we don't like are the people that want middlemen to exist everywhere and take your money from you, charge you high fees, steal your privacy. The cryptocurrency space, there's so much more that brings us together. You know, we all have wallets and private keys and public keys, and we believe in things like decentralization. We have tokens. I mean, at the end of the day, the vocabulary is nearly the same. It's like 14 flavors of the same religion. So why should we fight? You know, we should all work together. We should all find ways to learn from each other. There's a lot of amazing technology across the space. We've learned an enormous amount from people like Solana, Fire Dancer. We've learned an enormous amount working with Hedera, especially on the DREC, where we talked about decentralized recovery. We've learned an enormous amount from Multiverse X. In fact, Multiverse X, their technology was supposed to be Ethereum 2, and they probably should have been back in the day. And there was a brief window of time where that was possible. And so there's all these amazing people who have spent years of their lives, in some cases over a decade, contributing to the technology, the philosophy, the community, the ecosystem, and the globalization of crypto. And the downstream benefits are that we brought together as an ecosystem 550 million people in the cryptocurrency space. It's extraordinary when you think about that. 550 million. There was less than 10,000 people in cryptocurrencies when I started. And that wasn't too long ago because I'm not an old man. So we've grown that large. And when we look at things like the Clarity Act, we look at things like the Genius Act, which just passed, by the way, it's going to bring in billions of people. And that's why we do what we do. And so as we look to the future, events like this are so beautiful and so promising because they show that we can work together, we can talk to each other. You know, we can actually find ways to see what's special about each and every ecosystem. And that's why I really love Rand and Wes and their vision for Rare Evo, and it's a great honor to open the conference because that's their vision too. They said to us, we don't want this just to be a Cardano conference, we want this to be a conference that showcases all the amazing things that are going on across many different ecosystems and something to bring people together. So I hope you take the time to get to know our neighbors, and I hope our neighbors take the time to get to know us. Every year it's going to keep growing. I'm going to do my damnedest to convince them to move it back to Colorado, because that's where I live, along Wyoming. But we'll see. There's some things outside of my realm of control. So anyway, that's the conference. But let's talk about some of the sexy, cool stuff. Next slide. Bitcoin DeFi. How about that? All right, so we got Bitcoin here. All right, and we got this other word that seems to be incompatible. It's called DeFi. In fact, I started here a long time ago. And when I started in the Bitcoin space, all you really could do is just send Bitcoins around. That's it. It was really cool. We were like, wow, we're like, oh, geez, you mine them, you collect them like Pokemon, you send them around to people, and at some point they'll be worth something. And it's probably not illegal. Maybe. I don't know. Don't tell your friends. So then all of a sudden people said, we'd like to do more with Bitcoin. And I said, like, what would you like to do? They said, we'd like to issue assets. I was, oh, well, that's a pretty good thing. Yeah, we should have more than just Bitcoin. So some protocols were invented, like Mastercoin and Color Coins. And they said, let's be multi-asset. Great. It was a horrible experience. Didn't work. Then we said, well, we'd like to do more with Bitcoin. I said, well, what would you like to do? It's like, we'd like to have like application. What if the transactions, crazy thought, are programmable? Kind of like you had the web browser back in the day. You had HTML in the web browser. You have these beautiful websites with the little GIF flames on them. They're very nice, but they're static. Can't do anything with them. But then JavaScript came, and then Eureka! We have Facebook, and we have YouTube, and we have Google, and we have all these amazing experiences, and it's great, and people love it, and it's wonderful. Well, unfortunately, we didn't really have any scriptability here. So what ended up happening is the altcoin space stepped up, and many different ideas came. So the first coin I created was something called BitShares. It was the first algorithmic stablecoin in DEX back in 2013. That's called being too ahead of the time. Didn't quite work out as well as it needed to, but the second thing we did was called Ethereum, and it brought this DeFi revolution into the space. People got excited about it. They got fired up about it. Hundreds of billions of dollars of value was created. There's now over $110 billion in TVL, 190 billion in stablecoins issued, and everybody's doing something with Ethereum. Great. But what about Bitcoin? Well, a lot of us got frustrated because we thought that we would not be able to convince to change Bitcoin enough to be able to participate in Bitcoin DeFi. And a lot of us who tried to build on Bitcoin to the layer 2 space, the Mastercoins of the world, the Color Coins of the world, Lightning people of the world, they just couldn't make meaningful commercial progress for that. Then something happened. The crazy adherents, they said, we are going to stay in the game, and we're going to keep pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. It's like that guy that calls you for the extended warranty. They kept pushing, and you know what they did? They added Taproot to Bitcoin. Pretty crazy, right? What the hell is that? Well, it's a MacGuffin that basically gives you just enough programmability that with a companion chain, either a layer 2 or another layer 1, you can actually get full DeFi capabilities. And this happened in 2021. So just because you have it doesn't mean anybody's going to use it, and just because you have it doesn't mean there's infrastructure around it. So for a while, we were really curious, would the Bitcoin space actually embrace this movement? Because they had spent so long saying everything's a shitcoin, all altcoins are evil, Ethereum has no purpose, smart contracts are a scam. It's kind of not a healthy environment for that type of dialogue. But what we noticed over the last few years was that not only did the Bitcoin space start realizing that this was a good thing, they wanted to actually figure out a way to make it their thing, which is a really cool thing. Because Cardano has built within it a unique competitive advantage. Long time ago, we had to make a decision, architecturally speaking. Are we like Ethereum and a derivation from that, and an improvement of that, or are we like Bitcoin, a derivation from that, an improvement of that? We had to pick. Cardano's about 70-30. 30% from that Ethereum side of the world, 70% from the Bitcoin side of the world. So we're much more like Bitcoin than we are Ethereum. We have UTXO accounting, but the better one, extended UTXO. We have a proof of stake protocol that was built and inspired by proof of work. In fact, we started with proof of work. The GKL 15 paper was the very first academic paper to prove that Bitcoin was provably secure. And it created a security model that we then used to prove that our version of proof of stake was secure. Our asset issuance model, remember color coins? Well, Cardano native tokens are actually inspired by that. We just basically built native support into the system. So there's many extensions that come out of the Bitcoin world that we finished because we had the ability to finish. Now, we took a lot from Ethereum as well. We took a lot from the other things in that space as well. But we took a lot of the good stuff, you know, and left out the bad. And so when you put those two things together, if Bitcoin needs a companion system that is going to help it in its DeFi journey, I would argue that Cardano is one of the most competitive, most compelling, and interesting experiences for that. And that's what this presentation is about, is to kind of walk you guys through and show you the art of the possible and tell you what's being built today, right now. Some of the technology already runs on mainnet, meaning Bitcoin mainnet and Cardano mainnet. Other technology still in the testnet range, but it's moving and evolving rapidly. In fact, the last time I actually talked about this was at the large Bitcoin 2025 conference. So large, over 100,000 people were there, and we've already made significant progress since that time. But let's talk about the stack. And I have this prop on the stage. I like props, so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna move it. Cubes. All right, let's deconstruct our cubes. For dramatic effect. Okay. So 3 cubes. This is infrastructure. It's kind of your middleware. It's your ecosystem. So this infrastructure cube, and I'll slide it back in case the monitors are making it hard to see. This is the connecting tissue between Bitcoin and other stuff. And all these cubes play by 3 rules. 3 cubes, 3 rules. Can't violate them or else Bitcoin DeFi won't work. Rule number 1, does anybody know what it is? If you talk to a Bitcoin maximalist, they're like, boy, we love the altcoin space. There's so much innovation. Those guys are great, you know. I want to invite them over for dinner. There's no such thing as a shitcoin. We're all friends and family. No, they hate us. There is only Bitcoin. That's rule number 1. So the security of the system must come from Bitcoin. Rule number 2. If there's only Bitcoin, if you're paying transaction fees, what do you pay your transaction fees in? Is it Solana? Nope. Is it Cardano? ADA? No. It's Bitcoin. You can only pay your transaction fees in Bitcoin. Sorry. That's the rules. I don't make them. They live by them. It's 550 million people. You know, we kind of have to accept, right? It's their country. 2, only transaction fees in Bitcoin. And 3, if you get a yield back from your DeFi, do we pay that yield back in Dogecoin? Do we pay that yield back in Tether? Do we pay that yield back in ADA? No, there's only Bitcoin. You pay the yield back in Bitcoin. There's only Bitcoin. Those are the 3 rules. Now, if you tell a maximalist that, they'd be like, I want to hate you, but I can never find a way to do so because I agree with you. So your infrastructure layer, it has to be able to create a world like that, or you derive your security from proof of work. You pay your transaction fees in Bitcoin. And whatever the hell this DeFi thing is doing, we don't know what's going on under the hood, but I better at some time get like back somehow, some way, Bitcoin out of that thingy-mabob that you've created. That's rule number 1. That's the first part of the system for the 3 rules. Then the second part is the user experience. So this cube right here. Okay, so we have this thing called the glacier drop. It's an example of like designed by committee because there's all these things that are happening. All these people are talking about it. As much as I love it, it is not an easy process. Okay, if we had that user experience for Bitcoin DeFi, it'd be over. It's got to be simple. It's got to be Apple-fied, okay? These are Bitcoiners. You click a button. It's a toggle. It's a thing. You just like, you have Bitcoin and Bitcoin DeFi mode. Bitcoin DeFi mode. What's the difference between the two? You click a toggle. That's it. That's what Bitcoin DeFi has to have. So you have to have a wallet layer inside the system that hides all that complexity and just pushes it to the back. And it, for the user, is as simple as a toggle. You click it and you're done. That's it. And then for the ecosystem side, you have to figure out a way to handle that whole fees, and you have to figure out a way to have that whole yield be in Bitcoin. So what's really cool about Cardano is we invested heavily in a lot of foundational technologies. On the infrastructure side, we invested heavily in things like BitVMX. In fact, Cardano is going to be next year the best development platform for Bitcoin DeFi. You can use Aiken, Plutus, and other tools to write Bitcoin script that runs natively on the Bitcoin network. We are UTXO accounting. So if you're building a UTXO application, the paradigms match. It doesn't for Solana or for Ethereum because they've chosen different paradigms. So you have to translate it to write that application. You don't for us. So because of these heavy investments here, we have a native advantage. We own a wallet, input-output. We have this amazing lace thing, and Brandon is going to show you the toggle. And once you see it, you get it. Yeah, click it. That's all you have to do. Bitcoin DeFi mode. Not new Bitcoin, not different Bitcoin, not shadow Bitcoin, not Bitcoin Microsoft. It's just DeFi mode. That's all it is, okay? And on the ecosystem side, there's all of these amazing dApps that are getting ready for Babel fees, like Fluid Tokens, for example. We love them. They're amazing. And they're actually the first to implement it in software. And they can talk around how we can get a yield in Bitcoin and how we can get fees in Bitcoin. So buckle up. The people that are coming up next, they're going to walk you through this stack. And they're going to take care of you guys. They're going to show you the vision, show you the journey. And you know, once you've put it all together, guess what you got? You have a TVL opportunity that is 4 times larger than the market caps of Ethereum and Solana combined. That's how big the market is. Single biggest, single most liquid market of anything in our industry, probably forever. The thing about Bitcoin is Wall Street loves it, institutions love it, governments love it, people love it. It's Bitcoin. It's not going anywhere. It's going to be here. What the DeFi part is about having the gold leave the gold mine. It's kind of a weird thing. You mine it, you have to just like keep it at the mine forever. No, you make jewelry out of it, damn it. And this is what's making jewelry, the DeFi side of the world. And that's what we're going to do. And I think that Cardano is the best suited ledger for this. We've been planning this for a really long time. From where we inherited our technology to concepts like Babel fees, you can kind of see little by little how we put all these pieces together. And I think we could be the first to actually inherit those 3 rules and get it done. And what's so super exciting is that if this works, which I think it will, it's going to bring not only billions of dollars of TVL and lots of transactions, but it finishes something that I started my career on. You know, I started as a Bitcoin guy. I was the founding chairman of the Bitcoin Foundation's education committee. I started the Bitcoin education project. I wanted Bitcoin to be ubiquitous. I wanted Bitcoin to be successful. I wanted Bitcoin to fundamentally transform the economic, political, and social systems of the world. The challenge is you can't do that if you don't have the E, the economic, and without smart contracts, you can't get the P or the S. So to me, it's a pretty magical thing to come back to where I started and know the place for the first time. Because of Taproot, because of BitVMX, because of the partnerships we have, because of the existence of Cardano, we can add something new and exciting to this conversation for 500 million people. And we could do it at a scale that no one's ever seen before. So I would love to welcome up the next speaker, Brandon, and we'll get your slides there.
Thank you, man. Thank you, Charles. Always a privilege to share a stage with you. Although I have to ask, why am I always the one that has to follow Charles? It's like having the opening act is the Beatles or the Rolling Stones, and hi, I'm Nickelback. But no, it's great. It's a great tee-off from Charles to set this up in terms of the Bitcoin DeFi. I am Brandon Wolf. It is a privilege to both serve and represent the Lace team. The Lace wallet, if you've been in a coma for the past 2 years, welcome back. We are a very popular Cardano wallet that has just recently moved into multi-chain. We launched Bitcoin earlier this year, and we are fully supporting Bitcoin in the wallet now. And I think we are one of the only, if not the only wallet to support midnight as they do their mainnet launch. So I want to give a congratulations to the Midnight team. We've worked with them for 2 years, very closely. Mauricio, Bob, Iran, you guys, I know you're out there. Congratulations to you. It's been a pleasure to be on the journey with you. With that, we are also going to multi-platform. So one of the questions I get the most often is, when mobile? When are you going to have a Lace mobile wallet? We have one. It's being developed. Ideally, we're going to have it done by the end of the year, maybe the beginning of the year. We don't want to cut any corners. We're going to make it a very rich, very engaging experience. We want it to be user-friendly. We want it to be secure. We're not cutting any corners on that. I would recommend you come take a look at our booth, the I/O booth. Michael will be back there. He'll be demoing the Lace mobile for you on 2 iPads. You can take a look at it and see exactly what's coming and talk about that. But I'm going to jump into the Bitcoin demo. I think we're running a little short on time, and I don't want to. Torben is next. And so I'm going to show, this is the Lace wallet. This is a demo, just so we're clear. Don't look at this and think like that's the price of Bitcoin right now. This was taken a little while back. But what I want to show is basically the art of the possible and how this will work in Lace. Now, Charles set this up really nicely in terms of the toggle. This was something that he wanted. He called me and said, hey, we need to make sure that the user experience is going to be very easy, very consumable. It's going to follow, and it's going to unlock that liquidity that's been used traditionally as a store of value in Bitcoin. I don't need to sell you on that. He did a great job of it. This is the toggle here. We're looking at a wallet that is holding Bitcoin. And this is actual Bitcoin. And when I enable this, I'm going to get my glasses out because I'm getting old. When I turn on when I click the toggle to enable DeFi, I can now allocate some of my Bitcoin. So I'm going to slide this up to roughly 44%. I could also specify Satoshi manually if I wanted to. I'm going to update my allocation. It's going to prompt me with a transaction summary. The transaction fees, all in Bitcoin, just like Charles said. How much is being done? This looks good. I'm going to do it fast. If you've ever done a Bitcoin transaction, you get different networks to choose from. I'm going to choose fast. I'm going to secure this with, I'm going to have a signature on here that uses my password from the wallet. Hit confirm. That'll take just a few seconds for it to process through while it now unlocks 44% of my allocated Bitcoin to use in DeFi. It takes just a second, and then it should pop up and say, all done. Now, in the essence of time, I'm not going to go through NFTs, but NFTs are roughly the same way. I can click the enable DeFi toggle at the top, and I can also enable my NFTs to be used as ordinals within a Bitcoin. But what I'm going to do is actually switch to the star of the show for these, which is dApps. Now, dApps is something that is really where the ecosystem comes into play. A lot of you are dApp developers, and this is how the DeFi will actually start to become more realistic from a usability standpoint. We've partnered with 2. I'm going to show 3 dApps really quickly, but MinSwap and JPEG Store. These are actually Cardano dApps that have partnered with us to work through and build these out for Bitcoin DeFi. We'll start with MinSwap and just do a very quick swap. I'm going to load this up from the dApp Explorer. I'm going to authorize this to use my wallet, and now I'm in MinSwap, and I'm looking at the Bitcoin that I want to swap for about 10,000 Min tokens. I click Trade Now. Again, this is from Bitcoin. The fees are in Bitcoin, so I'm reviewing this. This looks good. I sign it, hit Confirm, and that's it. Now I've done a complete swap from Bitcoin to Min tokens, a Cardano native asset. JPEG Store. If I want to utilize some of my NFTs that I have right now, I can just go into I'll just choose one at random. I'm going to borrow Bitcoin against this one. I can set the terms for this. I want to borrow half of a Bitcoin at 4.7% interest and 21 days. I look at all the fees. Again, everything is in Bitcoin. I do a request, and that's it. I'm done. It's now been put out into the network, and if someone accepts it, then the borrow request would be fulfilled. Last one I want to show is Loan dApp. This is not a real dApp. This is just something to show, again, the art of the possible when it comes to lending, borrowing. So I will load this up and show my Bitcoin that I have in my wallet and my Cardano. And let's say I want to supply some of my Bitcoin to the network. Again, these are the Bitcoin-enabled, Bitcoin DeFi-enabled tokens that I have. I'm going to choose the amount, hit supply, choose my terms, 30 days. I'm going to choose 500,000 Satoshis, click confirm, and now I have successfully put a loan out for Bitcoin. Now, if I want to do the same for Cardano, let's say I want to borrow. I'm just going to borrow 10 Cardano. I'll click borrow, up here, choose 10. Looking at the interest rate, looks good. All of the fees look good. This is in ADA, of course, because we're doing it in ADA. Hit confirm, go back to my dashboard, and now I see that I have Bitcoin that's being supplied, and I have Cardano that's being borrowed, ADA that's being borrowed, and 4 NFTs. That's my time. Wanted to get through this really quickly. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Come say hi. Come visit us. We love talking to everybody. Like Charles said, it's all about the community. We love talking to everybody that's in the ecosystem. Other wallets, we love talking to everybody. So please come say hi. We love talking about this. Have any questions you have about Lace, about Bitcoin DeFi, about what we're doing in the future, we'd love to have it. Okay, that said, I'm going to keep the well-groomed facial hair train going and invite my friend up. Torben is actually next. And Torben's going to talk about, so we talked about our layer, now Torben's going to talk about it in the middle.
So hi everyone. I'm Torben, I'm working for IO and I'm a technical architect, and I'll tell you a little bit about what's happening under the hood. So Brandon showed you a little bit how the UX will work, and when you click your little toggle, this is actually what happens in the background. So let's start with a short recap of why we are doing this. So in general, Bitcoin is great. It has a lot of value, but it has limited smart contract capabilities, right? We cannot do so much with it. So if we want to execute Bitcoin DeFi, we actually need to wrap our tokens in a custodial contract or something. So we're actually giving our tokens away, and we don't want that. So we need something better than that. And with our Cardinal protocol, we have basically built the foundation to give a trust-minimized model. So, and I will walk you a little bit first through the protocol overview, high-level architecture. And not a surprise, we have on the one side in the orange box Bitcoin as a blockchain, and this is where we get our liquidity from, right? And on the other side, we have Cardano, which we use to execute smart contracts and actually do Bitcoin DeFi with it. And of course, we have Lace as a representation for a wallet, and this is the interface we are getting to actually have a great UX with it, right? So switching our toggle. And the underlying box is basically Cardinal. And it's not a surprise, we have a monitor and a dispatcher, so we are able to observe the blockchain and we are able to create transactions and send it to either of the chains as we need it. And of course we have Icon smart contracts, which are basically able to do all the kind of functionalities and logic in code so that we are sure everything is executed correctly on Cardano. And this is pretty flexible, so the protocol itself can be used to do many different things. This is just the foundation of it. But the real enabler of all this is actually Misreal and the BitVMX. So these are the other two boxes, and we will take a deeper look in each of them now. So what is BitVMX? BitVMX allows us actually to make arbitrary, Turing-complete logic executions on Bitcoin. So we are basically able to run any kind of program what we want on Bitcoin. On Bitcoin, not directly on-chain, but we are able to execute it off-chain, and by executing it off-chain, verify these results on-chain on Bitcoin. And that's pretty cool. So this works in a trust-minimized model. This means we have a set of operators, and this operator set we just need one honest operator to ensure the security of the entire protocol. And that is much better as any kind of existing solution where you have basically a big set of operators and everybody needs to agree that something happens. You know these kind of protocols already. It's an optimistic protocol, and you know them basically like Optimism or Arbitrum from Ethereum. But this works on Bitcoin, and it allows us a lot of different things. BitVMX is actively developed by Fairgate, which is our partner. And if you want to learn more, because this is a pretty big topic, I invite you to go to bitvmx.org. Next, we will take a look at Misreal. And if you are familiar with Cardano and the ecosystem, you probably know that already. Misreal is a really cool tool and underutilized at the moment. So if you're an SPO and you don't run Misreal yet, I highly recommend you do it, because this is a real enabler. What are we doing with it actually? So with Misreal, we are able to create certificates, and these stake-weighted certificates are enabling us to make proofs about the state of the blockchain. And the whole protocol is pretty efficient and scalable actually because of the lottery-based signing mechanisms. So we have a big group of stake, and we don't need all the stake in it to actually create those certificates. Based on this lottery, which is verifiable, we're actually getting just a potion, just enough to be able to create the certificate. And these certificates we are using in a zero-knowledge proof to actually prove the state of Cardano on Bitcoin. And we will see this in the later slides. Next, let's take a look how we actually swap. So First, let's swap in. So we have a UTXO, and this exists on Bitcoin, and it can be anything. For example, an ordinal, but also a fungible token. And what is important here is that we are actually transferring the UTXO. So not just some tokens we are wrapping and minting. So of course we are minting something, but we are really transferring the UTXO. So how does this work? Now you switched your toggle in the wallet, and this basically in the background creates a lock request transaction. And in this lock request transaction, a secret is chosen. And the secret is important because it basically gives the user the control of everything. And in the next step, we have the operators observing this lock request transaction, and they are creating the actual lock. The actual lock is important because everything what will happen from here on and for the unlocking itself is already pre-signed and predefined at this step. So also how the dispute protocol of BitVMX will work later on. So this means when the lock transaction actually is submitted to the chain, everything is set in stone. So you are not able to cheat anymore or anything like this. But we will take a look on this later. Next, or in parallel basically to this locking transaction, the tokens are minted on Cardano. And they are not directly going to the user, they're first of all going to a smart contract. And in the next step, basically, we need to create a release transaction. And this release transaction can be done by anyone which is in possession of the right data. So what is the right data? The right data is the secret the user chosen. So this is basically the post the user needs here. The other information is basically the signature of the locked transaction. So when I'm having all this information and actually doing the release transaction on Cardano, I'm able to, also everybody is able actually to submit the locked transaction on Bitcoin because this information is now public. And this means I just need one honest party in this whole protocol, and this does not even need to be an operator in this case, which submits the lock transaction after he observed the release transaction. So that's it. All this happens in the background. I know this is a bit complex and a lot of errors and so on, but you as a user do not need to care about this. So let's next take a look how we actually get back. So the user now enjoyed DeFi. So he sold his ordinal or made some trading with his Bitcoin. And now he has a locked UTXO on Cardano and he wants to unlock it again. First of all, he burns his tokens on Cardano. And this creates a receipt. And this receipt basically contains the information about the token itself and the amount which was burned. And he also shares an encryption key. And this encryption key is important because the operators will actually now use this encryption key to encrypt one-time private keys. And these one-time private keys are sent to the user. I told you before on the last slide that in the lock transaction, everything is predefined and pre-signed. And what it is actually predefined is that where you actually can spend this tokens later on. And this is basically the UTXO, which you later create, can be spent by these one-time private keys. And there are actually a lot existing. So we have a lot of different execution passes, one for each combination of operators. So for example, one group would be operator A and operator B, and another group, operator B and operator C, or C and A, whatever. So the user now decrypts these private keys and checks what group he has. And then he selects one. And by selecting this, he creates this confirmation transaction, which will basically burn the receipt. So you have now the proof of what tokens existed in what amount. And he has also the proof of what group he selects. The operators will now pick this information and create the actual unlock. And with that, they have to spend it into this so-called forward UTXO, which is now the UTXO the user has the private keys for and can spend it, and we are done. So the user has basically now the control of his assets again on Bitcoin. So this is a happy pass. What is actually happening if an operator tries to unlock something where he has not seen a confirmation transaction for, or where no burning happened in the beginning? So basically a malicious pass, right? So this is happening because we have this BitVMX dispute protocol, right? This unlock can be challenged by any honest operator, so we just need one. And he can say, hey, you did not make the right unlock here, give me a proof. So what kind of proof are we creating? We are creating a proof where the unlocking party has to say, you try to unlock the right asset in the right amount and with this correct group ID. And we are actually creating a zero-knowledge proof of this. And this zero-knowledge proof is created from the misread certificate. So we actually try to make, or we do, transaction inclusion proof on the misread chain. And we put all this together into a very, very succinct zero-knowledge proof. And it is not so much about zero knowledge in this case. It is about the succinctness. We are getting a very small proof, which is just 200 to 250 bytes inside. And that one we can actually submit to the blockchain on Bitcoin. And with that, enable the dispute protocol for BitVMX on Bitcoin. So we are able to verify that the state on Cardano is correct on Bitcoin. And with that, we have a secure protocol. And this is not just theory. We actually have done this on mainnet already. So this protocol is built, and if you follow this QR code, you will come to our paper. And there you will find a page which shows all the transaction, how we swapped this ordinal from Bitcoin to Cardano, transferred the ownership to a new owner, and went back to Bitcoin. So as we are on blockchain, I invite you to take a look, verify on your own, and not just believe me. So what's coming next? We are working on a fungible bridge, because this is, as I said, we are bridging UTXOs, so any kind of UTXOs, but to give full fungible support, we need some optimizations where we are working on at the moment. Also, we want to have a liquidity provider system which will help us scale and simplify some stuff for the user. Our ZK stuff works already, but we want to improve it, reduce proving time, and by that make it more optimized. And last but not least, we are looking into a way how we can get to a full trustless version of all this. With that, I'm at the end of my presentation. I thank you very much for your attention. This is the team which is working on this. And a special thanks from my side goes to Fairgate, which is our partner in all this. Next, you will see Riley. And Riley will tell you something about how we actually can transform Icon smart contracts into RISC-V. RISC-V is the programming language or the programs we are executing in BitVMX. And what does this mean? We are basically able to execute smart contracts written in Icon on Bitcoin with that. So you see, this foundational work will allow many, many different things. I thank you so much. Enjoy the conference and listen to Riley. Thank you.
Check, check. Awesome. Thank you for being here this morning. This is Casey, and my name is Riley, and we're here to present to you the work that we've been doing over the past, 8 months at this point, on allowing the Cardano tooling that we have for smart contracts to be leveraged on Bitcoin via BitVMX. Now, Torben already was speaking to you guys about some of the efforts that we have around BitVMX, and the Fairgate guys are great. We're going to probably keep this presentation pretty non-technical for the most part, but if you'd like to review the presentation that we did yesterday at the Dev Days, that is recorded, and we went pretty in-depth. In Cardano, we have UTXO-based transactions, and in Bitcoin we do as well. I think that this makes Cardano-based tooling pretty well suited to the Bitcoin ecosystem, and it allows for us to sort of be in a position where now that we have the work done that we do, I think we're probably the best suited to allow for Bitcoin smart contracts, personally. In Cardano, we have a huge variety of languages, and there's different bases for these languages. Icon is the most popular smart contract language we have in Cardano at the moment, and Casey is one of the co-founders of Icon.
But we also wanted to support the other existing languages that are in the Cardano ecosystem. So we took the low-level compile target of Icon and came up with a format to make that compatible with running it in RISC-V.
Yeah, so UPLC is that format that all of these languages end up compiled to. And we created a serialization format for UPLC that's compatible with a CEK machine that we developed in Zig, which is compiled to RISC-V. and allows for us to leverage the tooling that Fairgate has worked on with BitVMX.
And we'll go over these terms in the next slide.
RISC-V is a instruction set architecture that's very commonly used within zero-knowledge ecosystems, and it's a very well-suited instruction set architecture to be targeting for some of these use cases. It's not nearly as widely used in hardware as it should be, in my opinion, but that's it's leveraged by BitVMX and able to allow for smart contracts on Bitcoin. And like I said, Torben was speaking about this a bit in his presentation, so I don't think we need to go too in-depth on BitVMX or on RISC-V specifically, but if you have anything, Casey, feel free.
No, let's continue on, and then we'll circle back.
Do you want to?
Yeah. So the other term that's come up a lot is UPLC. And what is that? Well, on Cardano, we have a low-level Lambda calculus language that actually gets executed on everyone's Cardano nodes today. And so the idea is we already have this target that a lot of languages that smart contract developers are familiar with. So the idea is we can further take this target, convert it to RISC-V, and then from there, developers on both Bitcoin, who are learning UTXO languages that exist in Cardano, and developers on Cardano can begin to exist in each other's ecosystems, build dApps in each other's ecosystems.
And here we have an outline of the CEK machine. This slide is relatively technical. I'm not thinking we're probably going to go too in-depth here, but again, if you want a more in-depth view of the work that we're doing here, you're more than welcome to view the presentation we did yesterday. It was an hour long, so we had more time to sort of get into the details of how we've done what we've done and what we've done.
To give a kind of brief overview, the Lambda calculus architecture, it just requires a different infrastructure than our current register machines that execute on all the computers we have today. So we have this translation, the CEK machine, which allows us to run any type of Lambda calculus architecture. And then that allows us to run this Lambda calculus language.
Right. We're able to have any UPLC term, any closed UPLC term evaluated by these CEK semantics. And so having these in RISC-V allows us to execute or evaluate UPLC in any RISC-V execution environment. But again, the main target here is for BitVMX. And this is actually a high-level view of the architecture that we put together. The black boxes are static in terms of, they don't change between different programs that you might be using within our pipeline, but the red do change. And so the user provides UPLC to the system, and we're able to produce the program.s. We're also able to then include the runtime, which is the CEK, along with a couple of additional elements to combine with the program.o and end up with an ELF file, which we can give to the tooling from Fairgate, and it all just sort of works out. We did some demoing yesterday, and it, again, if you want to view any of the more in-depth presentation that we had, you're more than welcome to. It should be online, maybe already, but if not, during the conference. Is there anything?
Next slide. So here is a really basic example of, okay, you as a smart contract developer, here's a basic example of what you can do. This is specifically Icon, but it's okay, you have some low-level context, you can check various things, and how the validator works is it just either returns true, or it fails or returns false.
So thank you for being here this morning. We've been doing a lot of work in order to make this all happen. And again, if you want just to review the presentation that we have yesterday, it will be online. And if you have any questions, you're more than welcome to grab either of us or Lucas. He's a super tall Brazilian dude walking around somewhere. We're all pretty familiar with this technology and happy to answer questions. So. Thank you.
Thanks.